US that a lot of schools here don't teach evolution. Well, some might say evolution is something you experience, not something you can teach, but if you did miss it in school, he's here to share it with you tonight. So please help me welcome Toon Subsoontorn.
I believe most of you have heard of Charles Darwin and his theory of evolution back in high school. Some of you might even recall a pretty depressing and disturbing image of a monkey transformed into an animal and transformed into a human being. But have you ever wondered what is so important about Charles Darwin and his theory of evolution? There are so many great scientists in the world, and so many other great theories in the world. Why do we keep talking about these topics? My dear fellow Toastmaster and welcome guests, today I will share you a little bit of the highlight of Darwinian evolution, and I will tell you why it's so important and have so much impact to all of us, whether or not you are interested in biology. Now, let's start from a simple idea. What is this theory? This is the simple idea of Darwin's. Summarized in one sentence. Species slowly evolve from a common ancestor by natural selection. A few technical terms here, which can be more clear once I get into a specific example. Let's see. The specific example itself actually comes from the study by Darwin himself back 200 years ago, when he tried to explain why a single species of birds that migrate from the mainland to different islands in the Pacific Ocean gradually evolve into a different species of bird with different characteristics of the beak. One island, one type of bird. After a long study, he got the conclusion, which can be summarized as the following. Once upon a time, there was a bird migrating from the mainland to the area with a lot of islands. There's some variation in the beak of the birds, a little bit longer, a little bit shorter in different kind of bird, but not that much. They migrate to different places. For example, they may be juxtaposed to one another, but there's some natural barrier between the two areas. And in some area, they have a special condition that the bird needs to conform. In one area, for example, the primary food that is available is a nut from the tree. On the other area, the primary food might be the worms in the hole in the soil. So let's imagine this. When you have to eat nuts from the tree, you need a sharp beak with a strong beak to be able to crack the nuts. When you need to eat the worms deep down in the hole in the soil, you need a long and thin beak so that you can reach the worm that stay back there. So all those birds that are pointed with those arrows can be the birds that have access to more food. Can be the bird that can be healthy, can be the bird that can be survive in most of the case. And can be those birds that can produce a lot of protein. Right? And the story goes over and over a long period of time. The next generation comes, again, in the bottom group, the longer beak have higher chance to survive, the shorter beak have higher chance to survive in the top group. And the story repeats until at some point, you have two populations that is very different. The bottom one looks like a mosquito now, right? Whatever. So right now you have two different groups of population of the birds. Right? So Darwin used this idea to explain how you get into different species of birds, starting from a common ancestor, but with the process of natural selection, over and over you keep splitting the population into many different species. Later studies show that the same idea can be applied in a larger scale and a longer period of time. And we got something that looks like a tree of life. All the life on Earth actually can be traced back to the original common origin. And by the same process of splitting into two species and two species and two species, over and over, you get something to look like this. So, know the story. Why it's so important? Why should we care about it? Let's suppose you are a biologist. This simple idea, this simple theory, is actually the ultimate answer, the root of the answer of all the questions that we have in biology. Let's think about other fields of science, let's say physics or chemistry or mathematics. Usually, scientists have a few set of rules. Let's say gravity. You can explain why the pen falls to the ground. You can explain why the moon goes around the sun. You can explain why the earth. And the moon goes around the earth, and the earth goes around the sun by the same laws of physics. It's really hard to imagine a long time ago if there are going to be any simple laws that can explain all the diversity, all the different morphology, behavior, and all those details that you can see in the plants, in the animals, and all those micro, with a simple rule. So that's why long time ago, people used to believe that each individual species needs to be created in some way by some higher power, came down and designed every single detail in every single living thing. So with the theory of evolution, you can have a simple idea that says, with a small variation at the beginning, you can split out and exaggerate and expand all the variation over time. Let's suppose you are someone who's more interested in application, let's say medical application, or biotechnology, or agriculture. This simple idea of evolution is also important too. Why? Because it tells you that all different living things actually, they all have some similarity. They all bite from the same common origin. And so the knowledge that you know from one living thing can be transferred to other living things. When you study mice, you can use some knowledge you learn about mice to refer to the knowledge about human beings. In fact, most of the knowledge that we have in medicine right now is the things that we learn from the simple organism, from the bacteria up to zebrafish, up to mice and frogs and such. So because of that, because of the ability to study in one simple organism and transfer those knowledge to the higher organism, it's accelerated the advance in medicine. What about us? As a lay person, someone who might not care about medicine at all, someone who might not care about biology at all. Evolution is actually something that it philosophically put us into a new position regarding to other living things in the world. Let's think about this. A long time ago, we human beings used to think that we are at the center of the universe. The Earth is here at the center. There are all those celestial bodies going around the Earth. Humans are the one who gets selected by higher power to rule over all the living things on Earth. But then what? Darwin comes and said, hey, you actually juxtapose two other living organisms in the tree. You just abide on a tree of life. That's pretty depressing. And that's true, actually, because Darwin himself, it took him about 2 decades before he overcome that feeling and started publishing his work. In my point of view, really differently. It seems like we as a human being is actually something that join a common ancestor with all other living organisms. So we are separate. We are something that we are not the ruler. We are the one who need to share responsibility as good citizens in the world of living. So we are also a newcomer. Humans are not arrived at the beginning of the history of life. We arrived very late in the past 1 million years compared to 3,000 million years of life. So we are pretty new, and we need to be good citizens of the living world. Thank you.